All right, the story everybody's been waiting for. How I managed to become a raw food vegan for 11 months on this edition of Hippie versus Jock. Alright folks, how I managed to become a raw food vegan for 11 months. First off, background story. From Detroit, grew up in the hood pretty much throughout elementary, middle school, and high school. I've never had a sick day. I have more perfect attendance awards than I care to even discuss. Yes, perfect attendance. Now, flash forward, because I was still 17 when I came out to California. I'd already graduated high school, managed to go to college. Throughout all that time, still never really got sick. Sick occasionally, but within a day or two, I would be fine. It's just the way it's been for me pretty much my entire life. Flash forward, 2008, supposedly retired, which didn't quite work out. Maybe I'll discuss that one day. I have my son in the car with me, Scion XB, you know, one of those boxy things. He's crying because I'm basically driving and I'm hunched over, and he's like, "Dad, you need to go to the hospital. Dad, you need to go to the hospital." Keep in mind, my son's autistic, so it's probably a little bit more dramatic than I'm saying. So, Dad's never late, or very rarely late when it came to getting him to school. I look at him and I tell him I'm okay while I'm hunched over driving. I need to get you to school. We aren't gonna be late. And he keeps saying, "Dad, you need to go to the hospital." Something was definitely wrong, because it felt like what I read as being a heart attack. But I'm definitely not heart attack material, because it just wasn't gonna happen. Now, get him to school on time. Still hunched over, need a little bit of time to recover. Something's obviously wrong. In that time between leaving home, being on the freeway, and getting into school, I promised my son I would go to the hospital because something was obviously wrong. Well, flash forward. I go to the hospital. After, I don't know how long, they managed to figure out that I had walking pneumonia. And this comes from a guy who's never sick. What had changed, where a guy who was never really sick, or was sick a little bit and managed to get walking pneumonia. Pretty much my diet. I started eating crap. I think the food that is cheap doesn't come at a price. It might be cheap now, but you're gonna pay the price with the health later, and that's basically what I did. So, ended up missing for the first time with my son because I wasn't feeling well, and somehow, some way, basically promised that I would get my act together as far as what I believe may have caused the issue. Somehow, some way, when I left the hospital, I felt worse than when I went in. So that made things even more interesting. So, got out the hospital, All I could do was pretty much lay down, lay around. My other half purchased me a Jack-O-Lane juicer. And from there is raw food vegan history. I only went to the farmer's market to get my stuff. I got thin as heck, but I was healthy as heck. Things and issues that I had problems with, like once I went out to go play basketball with my knees, managed to disappear. Pretty much every ailment that I had managed to disappear. And somehow, some way, my body was fine. I continued to do it for 11 months. No issues whatsoever with me and in my health. And at some point I decided to stop. I went back to start playing basketball, and I know midway through it, and this is still in my 30s, basically I started dunking on dudes again. And you know, I was coming up like it was the old days, like I was back in my 20s, and it was fun. So it was interesting. I'm sure it was interesting for him to watch, although I got it really thin. And I'll be frank with you, I'm 6'3". In high school, I can remember being in the 190s. I'm not sure of my height at that point in time. And frankly, I got back down, and with my homeboy had me hop on the scale one day, and with all my clothes on, I was 202. I was thinner than I remember myself being in high school by a long shot. Some point in time, because I hadn't been around like a lot of my friends and a lot of the people who I normally was with for a long time, no explanation of it, you know, I was basically raw foods. When you do that, it's kind of awkward to be around people eating meat. So, you know, I have no complaints about what people do with their bodies. You know, I was kind of on my own little journey on this raw foods thing. So after, I don't know, it took me probably a month or two before I even realized what I was doing. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but you know, when you're looking out for your health and the best interest of your health, you kind of just do what's necessary. And I didn't think any further than that. I thought, oh, okay, it's like I had a problem and this may fix it. Sure enough, it did fix it. So I continued to do it. And the reason I stopped is kind of weird. It's like, you know, I kind of like to be like everybody else to an extent. It's like I don't have any like friends other than my other half who was doing the raw food vegan thing. So, you know, it got kind of interesting. So that's pretty much the story on how I became a raw food vegan. And the reason I'm no longer a raw food vegan is, I don't know, basically by choice. It's my choice. I still do raw food vegan stuff occasionally. It's just that it comes with meat and or protein powders and stuff like that sometimes. I can let you know the other day I was starting to feel under the weather. Guess what I did? I reverted right back to doing my raw food vegan thing. Got out the juicer, did what my son called Dad's green juice, which is the kitchen sink approach to juicing. And within a day or two, I was feeling fine again. And to this day, I still do manage to make sure I juice and get raw foods in me, like, you know, I think most of us should. You know, most of the stuff we stick in us is dead, and for some reason, somehow, that just doesn't make sense to me anymore. So I make sure I get real food in me, and that's it. Thanks for watching.